got to be more controls and process in place for something like that. So I think it's really hard for a country to sneakily buy Bitcoin, even though they should. But I think it's hard. Just like it's hard for them to get to the point where they can't even buy, right? Like the city of Vancouver, Mayor Ken Sim has said that he wants the city to buy Bitcoin for its treasury, for its reserves.
By political mandate, world currencies have been fixed to one another or to gold for many years. Prior to Nixon ending its convertibility in 1971, the US dollar only became strong and legitimate because it was tied to gold. Imagine, however, that the world economy is compelled to rebase to Bitcoin rather than gold in the future, where $1 US is equivalent to 1 Satoshi, the smallest unit of Bitcoin. Although it may not be possible right now, both Bitcoin proponents and economists are publicly discussing the potential. The logic is straightforward. Governments constantly search for the next anchor to regain trust when fiat currency falter. With a limited quantity of 21 million, Bitcoin is quickly becoming the only contender capable of carrying that burden. Dollar-set satire is not only feasible but inevitable, according to Samson Mow, CEO of JAN3 and a prominent figure in nation Bitcoin acceptance. He notes that if 21 million Bitcoin were dispersed equally throughout the world, each individual would own about 259,259 Satoshis. However, early adopters, long-term holders, and institutional accumulators make this statistically impossible. Mao asserts that the average person's actual SAT score is probably between 10,000 and 50,000. This indicates that dollar-sat parity is the most likely conclusion for Bitcoin. When I say dollar-sat parity, I mean the dollar's current approximate buying power. There will be 2 to 3 sats for a dozen eggs. If that prediction comes true, it would mean that the market capitalization of Bitcoin would reach trillions. The price would be significantly higher than it is now, and the entire global financial system would be reorganized. Such a peg would have serious repercussions for the US. It would instantly reset the credit system, devalue existing dollar-denominated debt, and give Bitcoin holders exceptional purchasing power in advance. The change would be seismic on a worldwide scale. Both importers and exporters would have to set their prices in sats instead of dollars. Countries that have opposed the adoption of Bitcoin would be at a disadvantage, whilst those who amassed reserves early would benefit from a generational advantage. Stated differently, one of the most rapid and significant monetary resets in history would take place in the global economy. In his most recent talk, Samson Mow lays out this approach. He doesn't stop there, though. He also looks at the precarious situation of fiat currencies, the reasons why the US dollar's special digitization might postpone but not stop its demise, the risks associated with central bank digital currencies, and why, in the end, he thinks Bitcoin might reach $1 million much sooner than most people anticipate. We'll dissect his analysis in detail in this video. We'll be delving into his argument, so stay tuned and remember to like, subscribe, and comment below. Thank you, and have fun with the video.
I don't think it's possible. It's hard for any government to do stuff in secret. Well, things that are beneficial for the country, it's hard for them to do it in secret. Other things, it's much easier. Like you could do a lot of things in secret, but for something like Bitcoin, like an asset, it would be like saying, can you buy gold in secret? It's probably hard. You need to, because it's part of the financial system and you have to be all above board, right? Like, where did you buy from? How is it custodied? There's a ton of questions that have to be answered. Like, it can't just be Trump directing someone in some agency to buy and send it to his Blockstream Jade wallet on his desk, right? But he's said like there's 2 years of red tape he's got to go through to even get to that point. So, yeah, the answer is they could do it in theory, but in reality, they probably need to go through and cross the T's and dot the I's before they can really buy Bitcoin. If not the federal level, definitely at the state level. And you're already seeing a lot of that happening in Texas. But I've said this for, I don't know, 6, 7 years now. But eventually mining and energy generation is just the same thing. It's two sides of the same coin. So if you have a national utility, they're going to mine Bitcoin just because it makes sense to do so, even from a grid management perspective. The monetary upside is just icing on the cake. And as people understand what Bhutan did, mining Bitcoin and getting $1 billion in Bitcoin in their reserve, more people will do that. And that's something we're trying to do now at JAN3. We're trying to engage with governments to start small pilot projects. We found that this might be a better strategy than engaging at the very top and meeting with the president or prime minister and trying to get him to do something because it's really hard to get them to do something. Not just not just at an intellectual level, but at an execution level too, for the reasons I said before. It's hard to do things in any government. It's an estimate,
It's an
and
estimate.
I
So
think it's a fair estimate. It's not all for sale. I think it's definitely it's a mix of exchange-owned coins and also holdings from people on exchanges. A lot of people have, or a lot of hedge funds and I guess trading firms keep funds on exchanges for, liquidity provisioning and say, I think we should have been here already. So
yeah.
I would have thought that the ETFs opening the floodgates combined with strategy would have gotten us there already. And this is why I'm one of the believers that there is paper Bitcoin out there dampening the market. So we'll see. But, nothing stops the train. It's going to go. The dollar is going to keep on inflating and Bitcoin is going to keep going up. It's just a question of when it all converges. Hey, depends on what the market thinks of it at the end of the day. But I think like the 80,000 coins that were market sold is a good indicator that the market doesn't care about anything now. Like there's just too much power behind accumulation, whether it's strategy or other Bitcoin treasury companies or hodlers or ETF buyers too. There's just a massive amount of insatiable demand, and the demand is only going to go up. It might be an early holder. I mean, there have been rumors that it's some estate sale, but nobody knows for sure. Yeah, Bitcoin didn't care. It just subsumed all of it.
Yeah.
But it does not seem likely with the current state of things. I think it's unlikely. I think it's probably someone or something less reputable that it would be doing something like that.
It is important to see how Mao frames each card on the table. Economically stressed governments frequently turn to policies like digital currencies issued by central banks or more stringent internet regulations, which both serve to consolidate power rather than address underlying issues. This relationship is exemplified by the UK's push for digital monitoring and Europe's implementation of CBDCs. These are temporary fixes used to cover up more serious financial problems. Centralized stopgaps, however, have never been able to curb currency devaluation in the past. In this context, Bitcoin and, to a lesser extent, gold serve as escape routes. They enable people and organizations to safeguard their funds from the gradual depreciation of fiat currency. Crypto rails use stablecoins to temporarily increase the dollar's reach. However, as Mow notes, this merely postpones the inevitable. The shift is not gradual once the breakpoint is reached. It happens quickly. In the event that the dollar depreciates too much to be used, banks, retailers, and sovereign states will all immediately change their accounting. This is where Mao's forecast that Bitcoin will hit $1 million becomes relevant, because, in his opinion, everyone awakens at the same time.
I mean, that's like an Omega candle every month or so. And that's in line with my prediction that we're going to go to 1 million fast. See, even Saylor thinks so. Like it's going to be fast and violent, no matter how you slice and dice it, right? If you say his prediction, if you take his prediction in the least violent way, that is like 10 Omega candles a year, right? And that's 1 million in a year. That is the least violent thing. Anything else is utter unspeakable financial market violence. Like that's like, $1 million candle in a year or a $2 million candle in 2 years, and then rapid ascension upwards. And that's all in line with Max Payne theory. So I agree.
Yeah.
Like that what he just quantified it in numbers 21, 21, 21, but I've quantified it in words with Omega candles and Max Payne theory. But it's the same packaged differently. Plan accordingly. Treat your Bitcoin as if it was 10 times more valuable or 100 times more valuable than it is. Secure it, make sure that you're trying to stay as private as you can. Use the privacy tools afforded to you. Yeah, just plan as if your holdings are 100 times more valuable, and then you'll be in a good place. Thanks, Eric. It's been a blast.
Yes.
Means that Brian doesn't get it. Like he's quoting Satoshi scripture without understanding it whatsoever. And if you're following Brian's talking points lately on media and X, he's becoming a bit more maximalist, right? And he's talking about Bitcoin being, the best asset to be created ever. And you can't really do that while you're peddling fart coin and other shit coins out there nonstop, or even worse, advocating for Ethereum and talking about how great Ethereum is. It doesn't work together. And I just think he misses that completely. And I saw people responding to his Satoshi quote and saying, you're the one that doesn't get it. And I kind of agree. I mean, if he got it, he wouldn't have been in the place he was during the block size war, trying to co-opt Bitcoin, leading the charge of companies trying to control and corrupt it, and saying things like, Bitcoin clients are like block explorers. You want lots of them competing. And when he says that, he means lots of different consensus rules at play in the marketplace, as if it was consensus compatible. I don't even know how that would work. But he's never really come to God and said, I messed up and I'm wrong on all of these things. And he's just kind of still promoting altcoins and talking about how great Bitcoin. COO at BTC China back then, or BTCC, it's a exchange and mining pool back in the day, one of the biggest. And because we were a large part of the mining hash rate, I think at our peak we're something like 18% of the network. The core devs Gavin Andreessen and Mike Hearn came to us and said, it's time to upgrade to Bitcoin XT. And that was kind of my first foray into Bitcoin development drama. But they had kind of split off from the rest of the Bitcoin core developers, and they were pushing their own fork. And they were presenting it as if it was an upgrade and this is the next thing you have to change to. And that's kind of what pushed me down the rabbit hole to figure out exactly what was going on and what it meant and how everything worked. So that kind of escalated, I guess, when more and more actors piled on, including Brian Armstrong, on the big block side. They were trying to change the protocol and co-opt it to have bigger blocks. And I think it was the beginning of a slippery slope if you could petition and change the Bitcoin protocol for your own goals and to your own ends, especially for corporations to do so. So I think it was an important thing. And the opposition was this small block camp, which were saying you can't just change consensus rules. You can tighten them, but you can't loosen them. And that if you change something like block size, it opens the door to changing the 21 million supply limit. And of course, the small blockers won because we were right, and also because Bitcoin is incredibly hard to change. So you had effectively every big company in the space pushing for this change. And at that time, maybe Bitcoiners today don't really appreciate it, but it was like everybody trying to force a change on Bitcoin. All the big companies, Coinbase, almost every exchange, almost every mining pool and mining company. So to put it into context of today, it'd be like Coinbase with Marathon, with BlackRock and everybody else saying, we're going to increase the Bitcoin limit to, 42 million now. And saying you have no say in the matter because you're just a pleb with a Bitcoin node.
Although the idea of dollar-sat satire may seem absurd at first, it becomes more of a question of when you consider the math, the history of fiat collapses, and the size of today's money creation. Due to its digital penetration into international finance, the US dollar has experienced exceptional resiliency. However, as Mow highlights, such merely prolongs the period. The destination remains unchanged. Nothing in the history of the economy indicates that unrestricted debt growth and ongoing currency devaluation will end happily. They have a fantastic conclusion. The consequences are profound if one Satoshi's purchasing power equals $1. The entire market value of Bitcoin would soar into the hundreds of trillions. Nation governments would have to fight for access to Bitcoin reserves in order to be relevant, and wealth would be dispersed in a way never seen before. Even a tiny quantity of Bitcoin now, equivalent to tens of thousands of sats, might provide future generations with wealth. It serves as a harsh reminder that there is less time to accumulate. A crucial divergence is also highlighted by viewpoint. People have the option to opt out while governments test CBDCs and work to strengthen their control over monetary systems. Bitcoin is more than simply a hedge now. The capital flight from fiat can be absorbed by this alternate system. The trend toward a SAT-based global economy is the same whether it is achieved through a formal peg, an abrupt hyperinflationary collapse, or just the market realizing that Bitcoin is better. Thus, the conclusion is obvious. The dollar SAT parity is not a wild dream. It is a potential, possibly even probable result of the forces at play. Whether you're ready for that change is the question. The easiest method of preparation is straightforward if Mao is correct. Tell us in the comments if you're in Bitcoin. Do you think governments will find another solution, or do you think a SAT dollar peg is inevitable? For more in-depth analyses, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you thought this analysis was helpful. Thank you for viewing.